On a dusty morning in Burkina Faso, beneath the rising Sahel sun, an unmarked truck pulled into a storage site near one of the operational bases of Faso Mayabbo, the government's flagship community development initiative. Inside the truck, exactly 200 cans of oil, no branding, no corporate press release, no televised handshake, just a brief handover, a sealed document, and the engine drove off. But behind that truck was a whisper that's now echoing across the region. This wasn't just oil, it was China. While no official confirmation has revealed the identity of the donating company, government officials and local volunteers confirmed that the shipment was from a Chinese enterprise known to be cooperating informally with several African development projects. This donation was quietly acknowledged by the authorities managing the Faso Logistics Division, and although no loud announcement followed, the symbolic weight of this gift couldn't be ignored. The timing couldn't be more critical. Faso Mayabbo is currently in the midst of its most intensive operational phase since its launch. Thousands of volunteers are mobilized across the country from the northern plains of the Sahel to the southern agricultural belts. Roads are being paved using local gravel and shovels. Abandoned school buildings are being restored into makeshift community clinics. Water channels are being dug by hand in drought-prone regions. But fuel is scarce. And just as diesel reserves were running low, this donation appeared quiet, timely, and perfectly measured. Each can contain enough oil to run a generator for days, power vehicles, or cook food for large volunteer crew. Yes, but more importantly, the oil allows the work to continue uninterrupted. It's not for stockpiling, it's not for export. It's meant to burn immediately to feed the engines of progress that don't wait for aid meetings or Western grants. What makes this gesture so shocking isn't just the stealth, it's the political undertone. Over the past year, Burkina Faso has significantly reduced its ties with traditional Western partners. It rejected World Bank conditions, it expelled French military advisors, it began sourcing industrial equipment from non-Western countries such as Turkey, Iran, and increasingly China. This oil donation, though minor in quantity, is viewed by analysts as proof of a new development supply chain forming outside the dollar, outside Paris, and without approval from Washington. More than a few eyebrows were raised in Ouagadougou when the donation was confirmed. Because it fits a new pattern, Chinese entities are not sending press releases or launching flashy campaigns. They are simply delivering what's needed: bricks, diesel, hospital beds, now oil on Burkina Faso's terms. Even religious organizations have taken note. One pastor in the center-west region, already leading a church-led Faso Mayabbo construction team, described the donation as a blessing that proves others are watching our struggle and choosing to empower, not control. That sentiment is spreading fast, but critics, especially in foreign policy circles, are uneasy. What does it mean when a superpower like China begins to back local unregulated movements in nations led by military governments? Could this encourage more African states to bypass international norms and pursue development alone? Or does it offer a new blueprint, one where sovereignty and support are no longer opposites? Whatever the interpretation, one thing is clear: China didn't just donate oil, it dropped a message, and the message, which is simple: if you build your future with your own hands, we'll bring the fuel. So to understand why 200 cans of oil can shake the international aid establishment, you first have to understand what Faso Mayabbo is. Because it's not a project, it's not a program, it's not even a ministry, it's a movement. Launched under the leadership of Captain Ibrahim Traore, Faso Mayabbo emerged not from a policy document, but from a deep frustration with how Africa has been forced to develop under Western supervision. By the way, we have launched merch that honors the African leaders who are taking a stand for Africa. Check them out to show you also stand with loyal sons of Africa, no matter where you are. For decades, Burkina Faso, like many nations on the continent, was told to take loans, obey conditions, privatize public services, and shrink government investment. The result: debt without dignity, roads that didn't reach rural villages, clinics that never had medicine. Development became something talked about in conferences, but never truly touched the ground. Faso Mayabbo flipped that table. The phrase Faso Mayabbo roughly means, "Let's build the nation together" in the Mer language. But this is more than a slogan. It is a declaration of defiance. The model doesn't wait for IMF funds. It doesn't rely on elite technocrats or foreign consultants. It starts with a shovel, a wheelbarrow, a community, and the belief that the nation can rebuild itself literally with its own hands. The system is based on three core principles. Local materials first. Cement, gravel, wood, and bricks are sourced from nearby villages, not imported. Not only does this cut costs, but it also keeps wealth circulating within local economies and reduces dependence on foreign currencies. Voluntary labor networks, teachers, former soldiers, university students, and even local imams and pastors are organizing work shifts where they dig trenches, build latrines, or pave roads without a salary. The government covers essential logistics, but the labor is patriotic, not professional. Horizontal command. There is no central contractor. Each region organizes its logistics and reports directly to a state coordination cell. It's messy, imperfect, but real. Real is better than theoretical when people are dying due to collapsed roads and failing sanitation. What's more, Faso Mayabbo doesn't separate war from development. In a country still under threat from insurgency, many former combatants, particularly local militias known as VDPs, Volunteers for the Defense of the Fatherland, have exchanged rifles for rakes. They're rebuilding what war tried to destroy. These are men who once guarded villages with AK-47s, who now carry cement bags, plant mango trees, or dig bore holes. It's not just construction. It's healing by doing. The results. In just a few months, dozens of secondary roads once lost to potholes have been leveled and reopened. Schools that were abandoned due to a lack of funding are now operating with community-built roofs. Farmers report improved access to markets, and traders are opening roadside shops near newly renovated junctions. But most importantly, the psychological shift is profound. Faso Mayabbo has instilled a sense of ownership over national development. Ordinary citizens no longer feel like passive observers, waiting for some foreign agency to help. They are builders, decision-makers, and protectors of a shared vision. They don't just live in Burkina Faso, they are building it. That's why the oil donation hit a nerve, because Faso Mayabbo doesn't need abstract aid. It needs fuel, shovels, trucks, bricks. When China quietly delivers exactly that, without asking for policy changes, the entire model gets a boost. It's not charity, it's collaborative empowerment. But how is it possible to run such an ambitious campaign with so few resources and no major donors? That leads us to a deeper question. What role does self-reliance play when the West walks away? And how is Faso Mayabbo proving that walking alone may not be such a weakness after all? Let's pause for a second to say a big thank you to the Black Culture Diary community, where Black voices, stories, and legacies are preserved and amplified. By becoming a member, you're not just supporting the channel, you're becoming part of a powerful cultural movement. Let's continue. It wasn't an insult, it was muscle memory. For decades, the development industry has conditioned African countries to believe that without Western money, nothing gets built. From healthcare systems to electricity grids, everything seemed to begin and end with foreign checks, foreign consultants, and foreign conditions. But Faso Mayabbo was not built for applause from Paris or Washington. It was built from necessity, and necessity doesn't negotiate. What's unfolding now is one of the boldest experiments in African self-reliance since the independence era. But unlike the top-down, state-driven efforts of the 1960s, Faso Mayabbo isn't about ideology. It's about immediate survival. It's about fixing a bridge because mothers can't get to a clinic. It's about building irrigation trenches because hunger is creeping in. There's no 5-year donor plan. There's today, and there's work to be done. Here's where the story gets more interesting. When Burkina Faso began turning inward and asserting sovereignty, the West didn't just walk away. It slammed the door on the way out. International notices left, military partnerships collapsed. Western ambassadors warned of isolation. Aid was suspended, development projects frozen, and meetings carnelled. To most governments, this would have triggered panic. But something unexpected happened. The absence of aid created space. Space for local engineers to innovate without red tape. Space for communities to propose solutions without waiting for feasibility studies from Europe. Space for young people to organize without being told their work needs monitoring and evaluation benchmarks. Out of that space came solutions, not imported ones, but homegrown fixes built with what was already available. In the northern province of Yatena, villagers repurposed abandoned military trucks to haul construction materials. In Bulgu, youth groups converted old market stalls into coordination centers for Faso Mayabbo logistics. In the eastern city of Fada, a group of women used traditional grain baskets to transport sand to a school construction site, refusing to wait for outside equipment. This is what self-reliance looks like in its rawest form. Not prideful isolation, but functional independence. And as small successes multiplied, the narrative began to shift. Faso wasn't a desperate workaround, it was a working alternative. There's another layer to this. Trust. When people see foreign noses arrive with SUVs and leave with reports, but never with real results, disillusionment sets in. But when a neighbor builds a road or digs a well with his own hands, that builds something far more powerful than infrastructure. It builds belief. The belief that change doesn't have to come from outside. The belief that a nation can heal itself if the right conditions exist. The belief that sovereignty isn't a theory, it's an action. And now, even as the West distances itself, other partners are taking notice. China, Turkey, Iran, and even private African actors are stepping in quietly, bringing tools, fuel, machinery, and more importantly, respect for autonomy. This isn't just about geopolitics. It's about who listens when Africa speaks and who delivers when Africa stops begging. Faso Mayabbo's quiet rebellion against dependency isn't anti-West, it's post-West. It says we will build whether you watch or not. But it raises a crucial question. If foreign aid isn't the cornerstone anymore, what is? And who are these new global partners daring to back Africa without dictating its direction? Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on black culture, history, civilization, and identity. Let's continue. Now, as the old patrons walk away from the table, new players are quietly pulling up chairs. The post-West era of development isn't just a shift in who gives. It's a radical transformation in how help is given, why it's given, and what it means. In Burkina Faso, that shift is visible in real time. No more contracts drowning in conditions. No more press conferences about accountability. No more forced privatizations disguised as aid. Instead, what's emerging is something different. A new class of international actors who don't come to teach but to trade, cooperate, and occasionally just deliver. Let's begin with the most visible player, China. China's approach in Burkina Faso is neither loud nor moralistic. Its gestures like the 200-can oil donation speak quietly, but strategically. There is no fanfare-only function. That's because China doesn't need to win hearts through charity. It wins them through the alignment of interests. To Beijing, supporting Faso Mayabbo isn't just generosity, it's smart positioning. As the West's grip loosens across West Africa, China sees an opportunity to embed itself not through debt, but through relevance. By offering tools, fuel, machinery, and no ideological strings, China earns something more valuable than loyalty: trust. But it's not just about business. Burkina Faso represents a new model of governance, sovereign, unapologetic, and rooted in African control. For China, whose own development was marked by resistance to Western hegemony, there's a philosophical resonance here, a familiar echo. It recognizes in Faso a framework that mirrors its early rise. Bootstrap development powered by national will, not international permission. And that's why the support keeps oming. Agricultural machinery, medical kits, waste-to-energy technology, none of it arrives with lectures about democracy or transparency. It arrives because a functional partner is more valuable than a grateful one. But China isn't alone. Turkey has begun low-profile cooperation with the Burkina Faso military, offering surveillance drones and construction tools. Iran too has opened trade dialogues for energy cooperation and technical education. Russia is eyeing security arrangements. Meanwhile, Pan-African investors are beginning to fund small-scale energy and telecom projects tied to Faso Mayabbo's infrastructure grid. There's a pattern here. None of these partners ask Burkina Faso to change who it is. Instead, they ask one thing: what do you need? And that is revolutionary in its own right. Because for decades, partnership meant compromise. African nations were expected to give up control of budgets, rewrite constitutions, or open their economies to foreign interests just to receive basic infrastructure support. Today, the model is reversing. Now it's the partners who must adapt to the African agenda, not the other way around. Of course, skeptics warned that these new allies may have their ambitions, and they're right. China, for instance, seeks long-term influence over mineral access, logistics routes, and trade networks. But here's the difference. Burkina Faso isn't coming to the table as a subject. It's coming as a player, one that negotiates on its terms with something to offer: land, people, vision, and a rising example of working sovereignty. And perhaps that's the biggest shift of all. Faso has shown that you don't need to be rich to be strategically valuable. You need to be clear, organized, independent, willing to break the old rules. The oil donation from China was small, but it confirmed something larger. Burkina Faso has entered the geopolitical conversation not as a crisis, but as a case study. And yet the biggest question remains: can a movement built on local hands, foreign neutrality, and national defiance hold? Or is there a breaking point ahead? Every revolution runs on momentum until it hits the wall of reality. And in Fasombo's case, the question isn't whether it has sparked something powerful. It has. The question now is whether it can last. With oil flowing in from new partners like China, tools being sourced without Western oversight, and communities rising to build without salaries, Burkina Faso has defied every development prediction made by global institutions in the past decade. But the hard truth is this: volunteerism is powerful, but it is not infinite. The daily work of Faso Mayabbo is grueling. Volunteers haul bricks in 40 degrees heat. Women walk miles carrying gravel on their heads. Engineers make blueprints with pencils and memory because software licenses were cut off when the West pulled funding. It is by every measure a bare-knuckle nation-building experiment. But behind the inspiration lies a real risk: burnout. There is only so much that patriotism, pride, and resistance can fuel. Eventually, every revolution must transition from emotion to structure, and Fasombo is entering that fragile phase, from fire to framework. Already, field reports indicate logistical bottlenecks. Some provinces have run out of nails and rope. Others have too many volunteers and too few tasks. In the east, several projects have stalled due to a lack of machinery to complete foundation work. And in remote areas near the Malian border, insecurity still disrupts road development, areas where armed groups take advantage of unarmed work crews. Without a formal payroll, retention is also becoming an issue. Some volunteers are dropping out, not from disloyalty, but from exhaustion. They return home to empty pantries, unable to explain to their families why helping the nation must come before helping their children eat. The government is trying to address this, but budgetary limits remain a coners, strained even with support from non-Western allies. Then there is the challenge of institutional permanence. Faso Mayabbo is deeply linked to President Ibrahim Traore's vision. But what happens if leadership changes? Can this model survive beyond him? Is it a philosophy embedded in the national identity, or is it a product of charisma and wartime urgency? In many African countries, such movements die the moment their architect steps down or is removed. Traore knows this. That's why he's begun institutionalizing parts of the initiative, creating local Fasombo councils, integrating some efforts into civil service structures, and linking with universities to make development planning part of education. But these changes take time, and time is a luxury the country doesn't have. Even more complex is the external pressure. As Faso Mayabbo continues to succeed without the World Bank, Western capitals are watching nervously. If Burkina Faso proves that major development goals can be achieved without IMF loans, conditional aid or political liberalization, other nations may follow, and that would be a seismic threat to the entire post-colonial aid system. That's why some analysts warn of sabotage, economic, political, or covert. Disinformation campaigns, supply chain disruptions, and diplomatic isolation may increase as the model grows. The idea isn't to destroy Faso Mayabbo directly, it's to make it quietly unworkable. But here's the catch. The more pressure it faces, the more real it becomes. Movements built by elites collapse when the elite is shaken. But movements built by bricklayers, teachers and mothers don't go quietly. They adapt, they slow down, but they don't stop. And that may be Faso Mayabbo's greatest strength. Its fragility is also its flexibility. It's not a skyscraper that must be perfect to stand. It's a village where one house can fall and another can rise in its place. As long as the people don't give up, so can it hold? Yes. If the people continue to believe that they, not the donor, not the bank, not the boss, are the builders. Yes, if the new international allies keep offering tools without demands. Yes, if the fire can be turned into a system without losing its soul. And maybe, just maybe, if 200 cans of oil can turn into 200 million bricks laid with dignity, then Faso Mayabbo won't just survive. It will teach the world how to start over. Can a nation truly rebuild itself without foreign aid, or is that just a dream? Is China's quiet support a helping hand or a strategic move? Let us know in the comments section. Would you volunteer to build your country brick by brick for free? Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If so, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: the black culture, civilization, history, and evidence about how glorious blacks have been. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.